Discover 15 incredible Stoic lessons that will transform your calm in any situation revealed. Sarah's hands trembled slightly as she returned to her black desk chair, the ambient hum of the fluorescent lights above tangled in the tension coiling in her chest. The paralegal office felt suffocating, its cluttered desks and rigid hierarchy embodying her growing frustration. Another day, another barrage of critiques from her boss, and now she dreaded the increasing whispers of her colleague, Jenna, who had a knack for dismissing Sarah's contributions with a smirk. The deadline for the big case lay heavy on her shoulders, yet the weight of self-doubt sat heavier. Her own mind wrestled her into questioning whether she even deserved to be there. Ethan's laughter echoed in her thoughts, a sweet reminder of why she fought so hard. But at times like these, her resolve faltered, squeezed by the tightening grip of economic uncertainty and the echoing fears of inadequacy. She was just one incident away from losing her poise, a fact she knew all too well. Juggling the needs of her 10-year-old son while climbing the rungs of her career left her awake at night, staring at unfinished designs strewn about their cramped apartment, remnants of aspirations that felt impossibly distant. As the workday dragged to a close, Sarah promised herself some solace. She stumbled upon her grandfather's old leather journal she had been avoiding, the faded pages whispering forgotten wisdom. She had reminded herself time and again that digging too deep into its contents would bring emotions she wasn't ready to confront, the bonding threads of love mixed with memories pressed under layers of grief. But desperation breathed curiosity into her heart. Maybe the Stoic lessons within those pages would ignite a spark, one that could shield her from the onslaught of Jenna's undermining attacks and her boss's derision. Before she could think twice, she opened the journal. The words felt alive, the ink as if it pulsed with truths she needed to absorb. Resilience, integrity, finding calm amidst chaos. Suddenly, those lessons were not distant echoes from a long-ago time, but a tool she could wield in her own unique battles. Yet, she lay wakeful, restless as visions of confrontation rattled her mind. How could she trust herself to stand up to Jenna, to reclaim control of narratives that had spiraled beyond her grasp? The stakes escalated when Sarah learned about the upcoming promotion opportunity, one she had yearned for yet knew Jenna was eyeing too. Anxiety gripped her, making the air feel thick in her lungs, and uncertainty hung around her like an unwanted cloud. She envisioned herself presenting her latest design amidst judgmental glances, every word fraught with tension as Jenna's mediocrity threatened to eclipse her efforts. Whispers of her past failures clawed at her resolve, and confronting Jenna about the undermining felt more treacherous than the threats of failure itself. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. That night, as Sarah practiced her pitch in front of Ethan, she noticed the wide-eyed admiration on his face, mingling with the nagging feeling of inadequacy looming in her mind. Each word felt heavier as she rehearsed, turning into a frenzied inner dialogue. Was she ready to reclaim her story? What if she faltered? What if she was met with mockery instead of recognition? The sheer thought of failure made her insides twist, tightening her chest as she approached the abyss of uncertainty. As the board meeting day approached, her resolve feasted unwavering. Courage. Standing outside the conference room, an icy chill seized her shoulders, halting her breath. All eyes would be on her to validate her existence, but lurking within was the raw fear of judgment, of the potential for everything she had built a house of cards reading to topple. Would she be brave enough to unveil her truth? As the door swung open, all attention shifted, a suffocating weight engulfing her. All that nagged, uncertain energy coiled in her gut as Sarah stepped into the fray, waiting to see if today would become the defining moment of her quiet yet tumultuous fight against the shadows of doubt. The initial meeting commenced, the air thick with anticipation. The conference room was stark, white walls accentuated by a long oak table flanked by sharp, watchful eyes. Sarah's heart raced, pounding a frantic rhythm that echoed her spiraling thoughts. She could feel Jenna's competitive energy seeping into the atmosphere, each glance in her direction underscored by an unspoken challenge. Could she gain the upper hand, or was she destined to be overshadowed yet again? Taking a deep breath, Sarah centered herself. The Stoic lessons from her grandfather's journal bathed her mind with clarity. Each word, resilience and integrity, was now a mantra, offering her a fragile but stubborn foundation to build upon. She visualized the outcomes, success lighting each corner of her mind like distant stars, vivid, inviting, and just within reach. As she stood to present, her knees shook, but steadiness crept into her voice. "Today, I want to share my vision for the Wallace design project," she began, injecting tension into her words as they hung, suspended like glass. It was the moment of truth, where she could either sever the ropes of doubt or remain ensnared by them. The room shifted slightly in her favor as she spoke with conviction. She shared her insights, illustrating her designs on the screen behind her with animated gestures that breathed life into her words. Gone were the flickers of doubt that had plagued her rehearsals. Instead, she embraced the burgeoning confidence sparked by moments of connection, each nod, each upward glance telling her this was her stage and she was commanding it. Yet, Jenna was not to be dismissed so easily. Midway through, she leaned forward, an unsettling smirk curling her lips. "Isn't it risky to pursue a style that might alienate our traditional clients? What makes you think they'd prefer such change?" The question sliced through the room like a sharpened blade, cutting deep into Sarah's facade. The familiar tremor of inadequacy flooded her veins. But what was risk if not a necessary bridge to growth? Drawing from the lessons she had deemed crucial, calm amidst chaos, she anchored herself, staring steadily at her colleague. "Innovation necessitates risk," she replied, each word deliberate. "Staying stagnant in fears won't foster growth, nor will it serve our clients." Jenna's smirk wavered, and for a heartbeat, Sarah saw a flicker of surprise in everyone's gaze, a shift that sent a pulse of strength coursing through her. Could it be that she had finally displayed the courage to stand her ground? As the meeting progressed, the dialogue transformed. No longer merely responding to Jenna's challenges, Sarah found herself challenging her own limits. Ideas flowed, igniting debates, and the weight of previous insecurities slipped to the side as she noticed herself engaging, pushing and pulling concepts to light. The completion of her presentation came too quickly, yet Sarah felt a quiet satisfaction. This time, she had fought alongside her thoughts, deflecting the shadows of her doubts with every professional insight she shared. Relief washed over her, a great exhale marking a turning point she hadn't realized was hers to claim. Yet the applause felt subdued against the throbbing in her chest as the meeting wrapped up. Jenna's glare remained sharp, calculating, unsatisfied, like a haunting specter waiting for a moment to pounce. Sarah's senses heightened, alerting her that this confrontation was just a prologue, there would be further battles ahead. As she exited the conference room, adrenaline surged, a reminder that she could not afford to relent. She thought of Ethan's pride and the legacy of resilience bestowed upon her through her grandfather's journal. The visions of those distant stars she had once thought unreachable grew closer. But lurking amidst the satisfaction was the question that shattered her newfound peace. Was this victory comprehensive enough to shield her from Jenna's impending retaliation? A sense of foreboding gripped her heart. What would the next round look like? It was time to prepare for what awaited her, for a storm brewed on the horizon, and Sarah knew she would have to confront it on her terms, no longer a puppet in someone else's game. The next day, Sarah arrived at the office with renewed determination, her mind humming with the echoes of yesterday's confrontation. The initial high from her presentation was already melding into an awareness of the challenges that lay ahead, particularly with Jenna watching like a hawk. Each interaction felt like it could be a potential ambush, and Sarah vowed to be prepared. She settled into her workspace, surrounded by sketches and notes, remnants of her ideas for the Wallace project. The clutter reminded her of her mental state, disorganized but bursting with potential. As she arranged her thoughts, she reflected on the pushback she had faced. Jenna's questions hadn't come from a place of sincerity, they were calculated attempts to undermine her. This was clear now, and Sarah felt the fire of resolve ignite once more. In a moment of quiet, Sarah opened her grandfather's journal and focused on a passage that resonated deeply with her. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. She had been paralyzed by fear for too long, allowing doubt to dictate her actions. Now, it was time to redefine her narrative. Could she not only withstand Jenna's attacks, but also learn from them? This revelation sparked a new strategy, one that required her to embrace confrontation as a means of growth rather than merely surviving it. With a fresh mindset, she prepared for the upcoming team meeting, laying out her goals clearly. Today, she wouldn't simply defend her ideas, she would engage everyone in a manner that invited their insights while fortifying her own vision. She envisioned turning Jenna's challenges into opportunities for discussion, thereby re-establishing her authority. As colleagues filed into the room, she caught Jenna's eyeline and felt a flicker of intimidation, but that flicker quickly extinguished in the face of purpose. Sarah took a seat at the head of the table and greeted everyone with a warm smile, projecting an openness that felt foreign yet exhilarating. It wasn't just about her vision, it was about creating a space where innovative ideas could flourish, hers included. As the meeting unfolded, tensions arose when Jenna seized the moment again, this time questioning the feasibility of Sarah's design concepts. Sarah could sense the anticipation in the room. Her peers were intrigued yet hesitant, waiting to see how she would respond. "Jenna," Sarah began, her tone calm and steady, "I appreciate your perspective. Could you elaborate on which specific elements you find concerning?" This was the critical choice point. Instead of deflecting or becoming defensive, she invited Jenna into a dialogue, subtly redirecting the focus from criticism to collaboration. The room shifted noticeably. Sarah engaged Jenna's critiques, transforming them into discussion points that drew in other team members. Their input invigorated the conversation, sparking creative suggestions that Sarah had not anticipated. It wasn't just Jenna versus Sarah anymore, it was a collective brainstorming session, infused with diverse perspectives illuminating the path forward. But as the dynamic shifted, Sarah felt a sudden chill in the atmosphere, a sense of looming conflict. Jenna's demeanor changed, her eyes narrowing, calculating. Slowly, she began to gather her thoughts, and Sarah's heart raced. Had she pushed too far? At the end of the meeting, as colleagues filtered out, Jenna lingered, her presence an electric reminder that this struggle for dominance was far from over. Sarah braced herself, ready for Jenna to unearth some hidden weakness. "Interesting approach, Sarah," Jenna finally said, her voice laced with a false sweetness that sent a shiver down Sarah's spine. "Let us see how long that facade holds up." With those words, the air thickened again, the weight of unspoken challenges settling around Sarah like a cocoon. She had gained some ground, but had she unwittingly provoked a more dangerous confrontation? Deep down, a part of her relished the brewing storm. She recognized that every challenge was an opportunity to solidify her position. But now, it was imperative to strategize. She had to discover the weaknesses in Jenna's game just as Jenna had tried to unearth hers. The stakes were rising, and Sarah could feel the tension build in her chest. The arena was primed, and she needed to be ready. As she gathered her thoughts to plan her next move, a question lingered in her mind: what crude revelation about herself would this confrontation expose? The following days propelled Sarah deeper into the realm of tactical engagement. She approached each day with an invigorating sense of purpose, determined to delve into the intricacies of her collaboration with her team and fortify her position against Jenna's undermining influence. The office dynamic underwent a subtle shift as Sarah embraced her role not merely as a contributor, but as a compelling leader who could navigate the turbulence of opposition. During her lunchtime walks, Sarah replayed her conversations from the team meeting in her mind, dissecting every minor interaction with an analytical lens. She sought to uncover patterns in Jenna's strategies, her questions revealing not only weaknesses in Sarah's proposals but also vulnerabilities within Jenna herself. It was an unsettling realization, but a crucial one: Jenna's aggression stemmed from insecurity rather than strength. This insight ignited a more profound determination to rise above the fray. At her desk, Sarah meticulously organized her notes and sketches, converting remnants of chaos into a blueprint of actionable insights. Each drawing represented not just design, it was a manifesto of her growth and resilience. In moments of doubt, she consulted her grandfather's journal, the words reverberating in her mind as she worked towards mastery over her emotional landscape. With each page turned, she embodied the courage she admired. The idea that fear could transform into a catalyst for growth flourished within her. Weeks passed, and the time for another team meeting approached. Sarah knew that the stakes had escalated. Jenna's passive-aggressive remarks grew bolder, her challenges increasingly pointed. Yet, instead of feeling defensive, Sarah's confidence solidified. She prepared for the meeting with a sharpened focus on fostering a collaborative environment while standing firm against any attempts to destabilize her vision. When the room filled with her colleagues' shifting shadows, Sarah could feel her heartbeat synchronize with the uncertainty lingering in the air. Jenna's sharp gaze was already penetrating, a menacing hint of a calculated strike. But this time, the looming confrontation felt different to Sarah. It felt manageable, almost exhilarating. "Let us explore this further," Sarah opened, strategically steering the discussion towards an outline of project goals. But she was not the only architect of the meeting. With poised eyes, she eyed Jenna. "Jenna, your critiques have sparked several valuable ideas. Can you share your perspective on how we can enhance this element together?" The room's atmosphere shifted once more. Instead of isolating Jenna or inviting an antagonistic rebuttal, Sarah had already redefined the playing field. Jenna, momentarily caught off guard, faltered. The calculated retort that had usually flowed naturally seemed to halt, her cold demeanor faltering under the pressure of collective engagement. Sarah seized the moment, inviting others into the dialogue. She spun the web of conversation wide, allowing peers' suggestions to interlace with her ideas, effectively neutralizing Jenna's striking criticism. What had once felt like a battle was reformed into a renaissance of creativity. As responses poured in, illustrating a tapestry of ideas, Sarah felt the space around her warm with collaboration, a stark contrast to the icy tension of previous discussions. But as her confidence soared, a tingling sense of caution brushed over her skin. Jenna's silence was foreboding, an omen that she was merely awaiting the right moment to retaliate. "Impressive diversion, Sarah," Jenna finally chimed in, her tone crystallizing with iciness as the meeting concluded. "But don't think I will let you off easy. Every piece of this puzzle matters." With this threat hanging unnervingly in the air, Sarah's heart thudded with a mixture of exhilaration and apprehension. She had drawn off attention today, yet the undercurrents remained tumultuous. Reflecting on Jenna's comment, she realized it was pivotal to dig deeper and prepare for the oncoming clash. What intricate game did Jenna have planned next? Sarah's resolve intensified further. She was determined to emerge unscathed, and equipped with newfound strategies, for the confrontation ahead awaited her like a storm ready to unravel. In the subsequent days, the tension between Sarah and Jenna festered beneath the surface, brewing anticipation and unease in equal measure. As Sarah carried on with her tasks, she transformed her worries into focused productivity, channeling her energy into developing innovative solutions for the upcoming project. Every design draft evolved into more than just visual representation, they became embodiments of her strategic growth, reflecting the resilience stewing within her. Amidst the creation of these designs, Sarah found herself wrestling with an inner dilemma. The image of an assertive leader began to clash with her innate desire to keep the peace. Was she sacrificing authenticity in her quest to neutralize conflict? This question gnawed at her during quiet moments, prompting her to think deeply about the essence of leadership. Could an effective leader embrace vulnerability while wielding authority? She pondered this as she reviewed her grandfather's journal again, searching for the wisdom of a bygone era. Jenna's ominous presence loomed closer with each passing interaction, and Sarah's feelings of being hunted intertwined uncomfortably with her excitement over her progress. The office hallway, once filled with her hopeful stride, now echoed with the weight of Jenna's scheming presence. Yet Sarah also recognized a paradox. It was that very threat that pushed her to elevate her own professional presence, forcing her to grow in ways she never anticipated. In her strategic retreats, Sarah began to experiment with her communication style. On a sunny Wednesday, she initiated a casual lunch discussion with fellow team members, taking a cue from the camaraderie she had nurtured. "What do you think about Jenna's approach lately? Has anyone else noticed a shift in her feedback?" she inquired, feigning nonchalance. The responses varied. Some colleagues expressed concern, while others dismissed Jenna's critiques as mere smoke and mirrors. But deeper insight emerged too. "You know, Sarah, it seems like she feels threatened by the collaboration. Your ideas inject fresh energy into the team, and maybe that's why she has been so defensive," one colleague suggested, their words igniting a flicker of understanding within Sarah. It was a pivotal moment, changing the way she perceived Jenna's critiques not as attacks, but as cries for help in a shifting landscape of power dynamics. That night, Sarah immersed herself in strategic literature that documented the principles of influence and persuasion. The delicate balance of authority struck a chord with her, revealing tactical maneuvers used by leaders who successfully navigated competitive environments with clarity and empathy. The lessons began to crystallize. She would learn to blend her newfound confidence with the authenticity she craved. Jenna's influence would no longer be an impediment, it would become a compass guiding her professional evolution. With each passing day, Sarah honed her strategies meticulously, walking the line between assertiveness and openness. She visualized herself as a bridge, setting the stage for conversations with Jenna that could recalibrate their relationship. Yet, lurking in the back of her mind was an unsettling question: what if the negotiation she was preparing for was not just about ideas but about the very fabric of her identity as a leader? The next scheduled team meeting approached. With a blend of anticipation and trepidation, Sarah was ready to face Jenna on a new battlefield. She would confront not only Jenna's strategies but the challenge of ensuring her own voice resonated through the air of competence and professionalism. As the day dawned, Sarah wondered what pieces of herself she would unearth in the process. Would she emerge stronger, or would the meeting unravel her carefully crafted vision? The weight of uncertainty tightened around her like a vice as she stepped into the office, her resolve forged anew. The stakes had never felt higher. What would Jenna reveal in the meeting that could shift the balance once again? As Sarah settled into the meeting room, her heart raced in sync with the ticking clock. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, seemingly amplifying the silence that enveloped her. She took a deep breath, focusing on the rhythm of her inhalation and exhalation, a technique she had recently embraced to ground her thoughts. This moment was pivotal, a turning point where she would either solidify her leadership identity or allow the weight of anxiety to crush her resolve. The clatter of footsteps announced the arrival of her colleagues, and soon Jenna strode in, exuding an air of confidence that bordered on intimidation. There was a shift in the atmosphere, a palpable tension as she took her seat. Sarah's grip on the stack of papers before her tightened. It was now or never, she could not afford to flinch. As the meeting commenced, Sarah assumed her role as the design lead, presenting her innovative ideas with care and asserting her insights with a clarity that she had worked hard to cultivate. She watched as Jenna's eyes narrowed, a flicker of challenge sparking in those otherwise inscrutable orbs. Each time Sarah asserted her proposal, Jenna's responses dripped with thinly veiled sarcasm, deflecting attention and dismissing suggestions with an ease that unsettled Sarah. It would have been easy to retreat under the barrage of critique, to shrink back into the shadows. However, Sarah felt something shift within her. Jenna's defensiveness became less of a personal affront and more an indication of Sarah's increasing influence within the team. She recognized that this was precisely the reaction she had hoped for. The challenge Jenna presented was not solely an obstacle, it was a call to action. When the conversation turned to Jenna's previous projects, Sarah seized the moment. While I respect your insights, I believe our team thrives on collaboration. The feedback you provided last week taught me about the need for constant iteration, and I'd love to incorporate that into our designs, she proposed, her voice steady and resolute. The room fell silent, eyes darting between Sarah and Jenna, and Sarah felt a surge of adrenaline. She had taken the step to open a dialogue rather than simply engaging in a one-sided rebuttal. Jenna's expression shifted momentarily, and Sarah detected a flicker of uncertainty before it was quickly masked. Well, your enthusiasm is noted, but we need to ensure our designs align closely with client expectations, Jenna countered, but there was a slight tremor in her voice. Sarah recognized it as a moment of vulnerability, perhaps a crack in Jenna's carefully constructed armor. As the meeting progressed, Sarah found her footing. Instead of losing herself in Jenna's shadow, she learned to leverage Jenna's perspective to enrich her own ideas. By the time the discussion reached its crescendo, Sarah felt a newfound alignment with her team and acknowledgement of her place within it. When the meeting concluded, Sarah retreated to her desk, her head swirling with thoughts. This might have been a small victory, but it had profound implications for her growth. She had successfully projected her authority while inviting collaboration. Yet amidst this triumph, a weight still lingered. Had she truly managed to unveil her authentic self, or was she simply donning a new mask, one that still conformed to the expectations of those around her? In the days to come, Sarah contemplated her journey. She understood that competency and authenticity were not mutually exclusive, they could coexist, shaping her into a more formidable leader. As she moved forward, she'd have to confront something deeper, her own fears of inadequacy, which whispered incessantly that she might still be playing a role rather than embodying her true self. The next challenge awaited, one that would force her to delve even deeper into the essence of her leadership. Could she unravel the complexities of personal ambition and collective success while remaining genuine in her pursuit of strength? The thought haunted her as she prepared for another round of discussions with Jenna, this time with stakes that felt even higher. What revelations lay just beneath the surface, waiting for her to unearth? Sarah woke the next morning with a sense of urgency that percolated beneath the surface of her usual routine. Thoughts of the upcoming discussions with Jenna flitted through her mind like relentless butterflies. She brewed a cup of coffee, the rich aroma filling her small kitchen, momentarily distracting her from the tension knotting her stomach. This morning, she resolved to embrace the uncertainty rather than shy away from it. As she sat at her kitchen table, surrounded by sketches for her new design project, she considered her vulnerabilities along with her strengths. In the past, she might have neglected to confront Jenna directly, opting instead to sidestep potential conflict. However, the previous meeting had crystallized a fundamental truth for Sarah: growth seldom flourishes in comfort zones. Could it be that Jenna's critique was a disguised opportunity to refine her ideas further? The office buzzed with an infectious energy upon her arrival, yet Sarah felt an undercurrent of tension as she approached her workspace. Colleagues exchanged glances, their whispers hinting at discussions that had perhaps drifted beyond the scope of the project. She couldn't shake the feeling that Jenna had rallied support within the team, strategically consolidating allies to challenge her growing influence. Determined not to let anxiety seep into her confidence, Sarah immersed herself in her work. While designing, she consciously pushed aside the looming specter of discord with Jenna. Each sketch she produced was laden with intention and invitation for dialogue rather than a declaration of superiority. This time, she would not fight against Jenna, she would invite her in, hoping to leverage that dynamic to foster growth for them both. When the meeting time arrived, Sarah stepped into the conference room with a keen awareness of her posture and presence. The ambience felt thick with anticipation, an electrifying buzz reminiscent of a storm about to break. Jenna appeared calm yet imposing, her arms crossed tightly, a familiar pose that both intimidated and intrigued Sarah. "Let us get started," Jenna said, her eyes flicking over to Sarah with a mixture of scrutiny and challenge. Sarah felt the weight of those gazes upon her, and it ignited a spark within. The script had flipped. She was no longer simply responding to Jenna's provocations but had arrived prepared to propose a collaborative solution to the problems they faced. Choosing her words carefully, Sarah said, "I believe we can find a balance between innovation and client expectations. Jenna, your experience can provide insight, and together, we can refine these concepts." The noise of her heart pounding seemed to match the intensity of her words, yet she fought to remain composed. Jenna frowned slightly, but Sarah caught a flicker of curiosity challenging her facade. "Perhaps you're right, Sarah," Jenna replied, albeit reluctantly. "But I still feel we need to tread carefully with our approach." Sarah leaned into the opportunity, sensing the beginnings of a dialogue rather than a conflict. "How about we create a mock-up to showcase our designs along with the iterations we discussed? I think it could provide clarity for the client's expectations," she suggested, her tone now devoid of defensiveness. It was an invitation to explore rather than a demand to conform. The dynamic shifted as Jenna appeared to consider the proposal, and for a moment, Sarah saw past the armor that Jenna often wore. Buried beneath layers of personal ambition was a shared goal: delivering the best product possible. As the meeting progressed, Sarah found herself navigating the discourse with a newfound sense of authority. She was no longer the anxious participant seeking validation, she was a leader co-creating solutions. By encouraging Jenna's input, Sarah discovered not only the capacity for collaboration but also her own ability to pivot and adapt even in a challenging environment. When the meeting wrapped up, Sarah's heart soared. She had shifted the narrative from confrontation to collaboration and empowering. Transformation that solidified her emerging leadership identity. Yet, as she left the conference room, the old doubts gnawed at her once more. Had she truly forged a partnership with Jenna, or was it merely a temporary tether in a turbulent sea? At that moment, she knew one thing: it was time to confront not just her relationship with Jenna, but the shadows of her own insecurities. Had she reached a point where she could embrace her authentic self fully, a self uncolored by fear? The answer loomed over her like a question mark, a challenge hidden within her internal landscape. What awaited her as she prepared to unearth those vulnerabilities? Would this journey lead to a deeper understanding of herself as a leader, or would the struggle to overcome fear reveal something she was not yet prepared to face? The next day dawned with a peculiar mixture of optimism and trepidation as Sarah prepared for another round of collaborative planning with Jenna. The progress made in their last meeting lingered in her mind, a beacon of potential, but underneath, a restlessness brewed. What if the fragile truce could shatter at any moment? What if Jenna decided to challenge her again, this time more intensely? Determined to steer her thoughts away from doubt, Sarah focused on the agenda. She outlined her objectives, a clear presentation of their design concepts, realistic goals for client feedback, and a brief summary of their collaboration strategy. Her fingers flew across the keyboard as she built a bridge between her aspirations and the realities of their working relationship. As she settled into her workspace, Sarah noticed someone watching her, a colleague named Tom. His expression was an odd mix of admiration and wariness. It struck Sarah that her evolving dynamic with Jenna was no small matter. It was shaping perceptions beyond just their immediate interactions. She contemplated how her newfound assertiveness might influence others. In the break room later, while refilling her coffee cup, Sarah overheard whispers about Jenna's ambitious plans. It sounded as if Jenna was once again attempting to consolidate her power. Sarah's gut tightened. Had the previous day's collaborative atmosphere merely been a ruse? Did Jenna see her only as a stepping stone? Struggling to rise above the anxiety, Sarah returned to her desk and took a deep breath. She reminded herself that she had navigated through trepidation before and understood the essence of vulnerability. It was part of a larger journey, a growth experience waiting to unfold. The word collaboration echoed in her mind, a reminder that partnerships can flourish through shared trust. The meeting with Jenna later that afternoon felt electric, just as it had previously. This time, however, a hint of insecurity pervaded the air. Jenna arrived, her demeanor crisp and polished, but her eyes narrowed, as if assessing every possible weakness. Sarah's heart raced, but she willed herself to project calm, to stand tall against the tide of uncertainty. Let's review the designs and address the client's last-minute requests, Jenna began, her tone almost clipped. Sarah slotted her display into place, presenting her sketches with confidence, but a flicker of tension danced in the room each time she caught Jenna's gaze. As the discussion unfolded, Jenna's challenges emerged like brash waves crashing against Sarah's resolve. This concept lacks refinement, Sarah. We should consider a more conservative approach, she said, her words punctuated by a subtle derision. Yet, instead of curling inward, Sarah felt the spark of determination igniting within her. I appreciate your perspective, Jenna, but I believe this design resonates with the client's vision. I want to hear your ideas on how we can enhance it further without losing our innovative touch, she replied, straddling the line between assertiveness and respect. The room fell silent, and for a brief moment, Sarah felt the weight of scrutiny shift toward Jenna. Sarah's heart raced as she realized she was redefining the conversation. Jenna blinked, caught off guard, and the defensive posture wavered. Fine, Jenna said finally, her tone hinting at grudging acceptance. Let us revisit your ideas and see where we can adapt. But I want solid rationale behind every choice. Absolutely, Sarah replied, relief mingled with the thrilling surge of newfound authority. In that moment, she realized she could hold her own in this volatile mix. As the meeting progressed, Sarah felt her voice grow stronger, urged along by her desire to overcome the implications of Jenna's challenges. Each dialogue felt like a chiseling away at her insecurities. She was actively participating in shaping her narrative. Yet, as she gathered her belongings later, a darker thought crept into her mind. Had Jenna truly softened, or was she merely biding her time to strike? Could Sarah's unexpected rise lead to unforeseen rivalries within the office? The question loomed, a heavy fog that urgently beckoned her attention. She was finally gaining ground, yet the uncertainty of Jenna's intentions loomed like a shadow over her progress. What would she discover about herself amidst the brewing confrontation that lay ahead? Would her evolving assertiveness fortify her position, or spiral into unforeseen conflict? This dance of ambition and rivalry was merely beginning to unfold, and Sarah was determined to either emerge as a stronger leader or give in to temptation and fear. The stakes were high, and she knew the next step could pivot her journey in one direction or the other. The following morning, Sarah entered the office with a renewed sense of purpose. The lingering doubts from yesterday had fermented into a potent mix of ambition and realism. She glanced at Jenna's office, her heart pounding in anticipation but steadying her breath. Today was not just another day, it marked the beginning of her asserting her boundaries more firmly. As the hours ticked by, Sarah dove into her tasks with unwavering focus, determined to ensure that her designs were not only seen but welcomed. She had spent the previous night refining not just her sketches but also the rationale that underscored her creative choices. The clarity of her vision pulsed like a lifeline, something she intended to grasp firmly. In a moment of spontaneity, Sarah decided to invite Tom to join her for lunch. She sensed he admired her efforts, and it might be beneficial to engage with someone who appeared supportive and unbiased. They settled at a small cafe nearby, and Sarah found herself opening up about her experiences working alongside Jenna. "I'm trying to understand what her real motivations are," she confessed, stirring her iced tea absent-mindedly. "It's like walking on eggshells, balancing my ideas with her expectations." Tom nodded, listening intently. "Maybe it's less about her and more about you. Think about it, what you want to achieve, regardless of how she interacts with you. Don't get lost in her power play." His words resonated deeply within her. Perhaps it was time to redirect her focus away from Jenna and towards her own professional objectives. She sought to elevate her mindset, shifting from merely reacting to challenges to proactively crafting her path forward. That afternoon, Sarah reviewed Jenna's feedback and noted the areas where her supervisor had merit. Instead of resenting the critique, she gathered strength from it, concocting solutions that demonstrated her professionalism. Each revision of her designs became a mental battle. Yes, she could satisfy the demands of the project while maintaining her creative spine. The next meeting would be crucial. Sarah felt a thrill course through her body, a tangible sense of direction pushing her forward. But there remained that ever-present tension. What would Jenna's reaction be to her intention to push back, to stand firm on her creative stance? Would it ignite further conflict, or could it lead to a productive evolution in their collaboration? As she finally settled in for the day, a familiar taunting anxiety crept back. Glancing across the office, Jenna faced a group of staff, her charisma drawing them in. The sight stirred something primal within Sarah, the urgent desire to not just survive the encounter but to thrive. She envisioned a direct confrontation, a moment where she would assert her opinions without hesitation. Suddenly, she was struck by an idea. What if she turned the upcoming meeting into a collaborative inquiry rather than a defensive position? What if she asked Jenna for opinions that incorporated her vision rather than merely justifying her choices? This could be a pivot point, a bridge rather than a battlefield. The thought both excited and terrified her. But she knew that embracing these moments of uncertainty was part of owning her professional development. She could redefine her negotiation with Jenna on her terms rather than shying away. Just as she turned to her notes to jot down this fresh approach, the office fell silent. Jenna strode in, her demeanor exuding an air of authority that had once intimidated Sarah but now sparked determination within her. "Sarah, can we discuss project adjustments?" Jenna called, her gaze sweeping the room. A slight tremor of anxiety fluttered in Sarah's stomach, but it was swiftly replaced by the magnetic pull of resolve. Today was the day she stepped into her own narrative, with clarity and intention. "Absolutely, Jenna," Sarah replied, her voice steady and strong. "Let us talk about how we can infuse your insights with our original vision." As Jenna approached, Sarah prepared herself for a defining moment. The stakes had never felt higher, but so had her willingness to fight for her place. In that instant, a realization washed over her: she had either to confront this dynamic head-on or risk losing herself in the process. The path became clear: she would navigate this challenge not as a pawn, but as a player intent on shaping her future no matter the outcome. With her heart racing, she positioned herself for what felt like an impending battle of wits and wills. Would today bring clarity or confrontation? As the door to possibility swung open, Sarah knew a pivotal choice lay just ahead. Let us see how far I can go, she whispered to herself, feeling the spark ignite anew. Sarah entered the boardroom, steeling herself for the crucial meeting with Jenna. Everything that had led to this moment pulsed in her memory, the doubts, the conflicts, the stifling tension, all culminating in a singular focus, to assert her vision and capabilities. As her colleagues settled around the table, a charged atmosphere enveloped the space, the air thick with anticipation. Sarah lit up the projector, her presentation gliding onto the screen, a detailed roadmap of the design project interwoven with collaborative feedback. This was her moment to shine, to build bridges, not walls. Thank you all for being here, she began, her voice cutting through the tension effortlessly. Today, we'll explore how we can merge our ideas to create a compelling vision for the Wallace Project. Drawing inspiration from her grandfather's lessons, she anchored herself in resilience and poise. Jenna sat across the table, her tension palpable though masked beneath a veneer of professionalism. Sarah felt an unsettling mixture of assertiveness and anxiety. This was the real test of her leadership, not just an interaction but a decisive moment in her career. As she transitioned into illustrating her design concepts, she noticed Jenna's eyes darting, calculating the potential for critique. But Sarah's preparation shone through. This design reflects not only our aesthetic but also the evolving needs of our clients. Jenna, your insights from last week were incredibly helpful, and I want us to enhance this collaborative momentum. Jenna's brow furrowed, but to Sarah's surprise, she nodded slightly. I appreciate your perspective, but innovations come with risks. We need to ensure we remain aligned with client expectations. Instead of retreating, Sarah leaned into Jenna's challenge. Absolutely, and I'm open to refining our approaches together. What specific concerns do you have? The question hung in the air like an invitation and opportunity to pivot the dynamic toward cooperation. The room shifted. Her colleagues exchanged glances, the atmosphere warming with a sense of engagement that had previously been absent. Jenna's defenses lowered as she responded, well, I believe some elements might be too bold for our core clientele. That flicker of vulnerability opened the floodgates. Sarah replied confidently, let us look at some alternatives that marry boldness with tradition. I'd love to hear your ideas on how we can implement that balance. As conversations flowed, Sarah felt a surge of confidence. Each of Jenna's critiques became productive feedback, each challenge saw through to collaborative solutions. At the meeting's conclusion, Jenna's expression shifted, no longer cloaked in bitterness but softened by a budding respect. You've approached this with surprising strengths, Sarah. I admit, you're right about the need for balance. Let us outline the next steps together. Victory surged through Sarah. She had not only acknowledged Jenna's challenges but turned them into a partnership, reflecting months of internal growth. This was the culmination of her efforts not just to emerge unscathed but to transform her adversary into an ally. As the meeting adjourned, Sarah stepped outside and drew a deep breath, the weight of uncertainty lifted. Walking through the hallway, she felt a newfound clarity in her stride, her previous reservations dissolving into the background. In the days following, she embraced her evolving role with a solid confidence. Colleagues began to seek her insights, and she became a collaborative force, forging ahead with respect and authority more than she believed she could achieve just weeks prior. Sarah recognized her capacity to merge authenticity with leadership was not a mask but a testament to her growth. Weeks later, standing in front of a crowded office, her design was unveiled to great acclaim. Her supervisor praised her ability to unify the team while honoring clients' needs. Sarah absorbed the moment, a wave of exhilaration washing over her. She had conquered her fear, established her voice, and expanded her influence. In that moment, Sarah felt a solid confidence resonate within. She had transformed, the doubts that had once paralyzed her had given way to competence and courage. She was finally where she wanted to be, grounded in authenticity and ready to lead. As the applause faded, Sarah understood that this journey had been about more than just asserting her place at the table. It had been about embracing her challenges, cultivating the courage within, and emerging not only as a contributor but as a beacon of innovation and resilience. As she smiled at her teammates, a lingering thought echoed, this was just the beginning. She had proved to herself that she could rise above doubt, meeting adversities head-on. The future stretched ahead of her, ripe with opportunities for growth and further transformation. In that triumph, Sarah found her personal achievement. Not just in the accolades she received, but in the self-realization that emerged from confronting her fears. She had forged a renewed identity, one anchored in strength and poise, and now she was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead with grace. The journey was ongoing, but she was no longer a lost student navigating obstacles. She was now a seasoned architect of her own success. Now, as this transformative story comes to a close, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and support the content you love. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending, and let us know how Sarah's journey impacted you. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this incredible conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to show your support. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of these actions.